Captain Elijah Warren wiped blood from his forehead as he staggered back to the command chair. The bridge of the Earth Defense Force vessel, Retribution, was filled with smoke and the moans of injured crew members. Emergency lights cast an eerie, red glow over the scene. Outside the viewports, the darkness of space was lit up by burning debris, the remains of 3 human colony ships. "Status report," Warren said, his voice hoarse from shouting orders during the attack. Lieutenant Amy Foster limped to her station, blood soaking through her uniform sleeve. "Sir, engines at 30%. Weapon systems offline. Life support. Stable, but shields are gone." Warren nodded grimly. "Communications?" "Partial function," said Communications Officer Daniel Black, his dark skin made darker by soot and burns. "We can send basic transmissions back to Earth, but nothing fancy." Warren looked at the main screen. It had been meant to be a historic day. Humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization, the Zeralian Empire. They had prepared for years, sent their best diplomats, brought gifts from Earth. The colony ships had carried families, scientists, teachers, doctors, people, chosen to represent the best of humanity, and the Zeralians had killed them all without even saying hello. "Record this message," Warren said, pressing a button on his chair. The ship's computer beeped in response. "This is Captain Elijah Warren of the EDF Retribution. First contact with the Zeralian Empire has failed. Without warning or provocation, they opened fire on our colony ships. The Liberty, the Pioneer, and the New Dawn have been destroyed with all hands. 2,137 civilian lives lost." His hands shook as he continued. "We were not prepared for combat. The Retribution sustained heavy damage, but we managed to jump to safety. The Zeralians used some kind of energy, weapon we've never seen before. It cut through our ships like they were made of paper." Warren paused, looking around at his wounded crew. "Send this with all sensor data we collected, requesting immediate military response. The Zeralians must be considered hostile. Warren out." He slumped back in his chair. The image of those colony ships breaking apart, people being sucked out into space, wouldn't leave his mind. He had watched helplessly as families died, their screams cutting off as their ships exploded, or as the vacuum of space claimed them. "Sir," said Navigator Carol Reed, "course heading?" Warren looked at the star chart. They were alone out here, far from any human settlement. "Set course for Earth, maximum safe speed." "Yes, sir. Estimated arrival in 6 days at current engine capacity." 6 days. 6 days for the news to sink in. 6 days to prepare humanity for what was coming. Admiral Grace Sullivan stood with her back straight as steel in the United Nations Space Command war room. The footage from the Retribution had just finished playing on the large screen before her. No one spoke. Some military officials wiped tears from their eyes. Others sat in shocked silence. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice surprisingly calm despite the fire burning in her chest. The footage began again. The Retribution's sensors had captured the whole thing. 3 unarmed colony ships approaching the designated meeting point. The Zeralian vessels, sleek, purple, almost beautiful, appearing from behind a moon. No warnings, no demands, just immediate weapons fire. The Liberty was hit first, its hull splitting open like a ripe fruit. Thousands of tiny dots, people, spilled into space. The Pioneer tried to run but took a direct hit to its engines. It spun wildly before breaking apart. The New Dawn managed to launch some escape pods before it too was destroyed. The Retribution, being a military vessel, had shields that held just long enough for it to escape, though not without severe damage. Sullivan raised a hand and the footage stopped. "General Martinez, your assessment?" General Frank Martinez stood up. "Admiral, this was not a misunderstanding or an accident. The Zeralians deliberately targeted our colony ships first, the unarmed ones. They knew exactly what they were doing." Sullivan nodded. "Dr. Wilson, any insights on their technology?" Dr. Sophia Wilson adjusted her glasses. "Their energy weapons are far beyond our current capabilities, but not beyond our understanding. Given time and resources, we can develop countermeasures." Sullivan looked around the room. Ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake. This was an act of war, and we will respond accordingly. She walked to a holographic display showing Earth and its colonies. For decades, we've searched the stars hoping to find friends. We found enemies instead. So be it. She turned to face the assembled military and government officials. I want every shipyard from Earth to Europa working around the clock. Every colony ship retrofitted with weapons. Every defense platform upgraded. A civilian official stood up. Admiral Sullivan, shouldn't we try to communicate with them? Maybe this was a terrible misunderstanding. Sullivan's eyes flashed with anger. Did you not see the same footage I did? There was no misunderstanding. They attacked without provocation. They slaughtered families, children, without hesitation. She addressed the room again. The Xerelians have made a grave mistake. They've mistaken our peaceful approach for weakness. They don't understand who they're dealing with. Humanity has spent its entire history fighting. Against nature, against each other, against extinction itself. War is in our blood, and now we'll show them exactly what that means. No one argued further. The decision was unanimous. Within days, Earth's long-dormant military-industrial complex roared to life. Colony ships returned to orbital shipyards for weapons installation. Manufacturing plants on Mars and the Moon switched from building terraforming equipment to producing warships. Scientists who had once focused on exploring the stars now turned their brilliant minds to developing new weapons and defenses. For the first time in over a century, all of humanity united with a single purpose. Not exploration, not discovery, but survival, through overwhelming strength. In darkened conference rooms, military strategists studied the enemy footage obsessively, looking for weaknesses. In laboratories, researchers worked day and night analyzing the energy signatures of Xerelian weapons. In training facilities across the solar system, soldiers prepared for a different kind of space mission than they had ever expected. Humanity had come to the stars in peace. It would not make that mistake again. 5 years passed. The stars that once promised hope for humanity now burned with the fires of war. Commander Noah Garcia walked slowly across the bridge of the Earth Defense Force dreadnought Vengeance. Massive viewports showed the aftermath of their latest battle. The remains of Xerelian warships floated like broken toys against the backdrop of a blue-green planet. Damage report, Garcia said, his voice reflecting 5 years of constant fighting. A long scar ran down the left side of his face, a reminder of a battle 3 years ago when his previous ship had nearly been destroyed. Lieutenant Ben Howard looked up from his console. Minor hull breaches on decks 4 and 7, already sealed. Weapons at 86%, shields regenerating. Casualties? Howard's face darkened. 17 dead, 42 wounded. Garcia nodded grimly. 5 years ago, those numbers would have horrified him. Now they were considered acceptable losses. The war had changed them all. The Xerelian cruiser tried a new tactic, said Tactical Officer Lily Chen. They absorbed some of our first volley with some kind of redirecting shield. We haven't seen that before. Garcia frowned. Send all combat data to Dr. Russell's team. They'll want to analyze it. Already done, sir. Garcia looked at the main view screen again. What had begun as humanity's desperate fight for survival had transformed into something else. Humanity's terrible but necessary ascension to become the most feared military force in this part of the galaxy. Send word to the fleet, Garcia ordered. We move to the Proxima system in 6 hours. Dr. Olivia Russell entered the high-security conference room at UNSC headquarters in Geneva. The room fell silent as she placed her data tablet on the table. Around her sat the highest-ranking military and civilian leaders of the United Earth government. Dr. Russell, Admiral Marcus Lee greeted her. I understand you have new findings. Russell nodded. Her red hair was tied back in a practical bun, and dark circles under her eyes showed how little she had slept. As head of the Adaptive Weapons Division, she had worked non-stop since the war began. The Xerelians aren't adapting as quickly as we are, she began, tapping her tablet to project images and data onto the room's main screen. Their biology makes them vulnerable to radiation frequencies that we can easily withstand. I believe this is why they always attack from a distance. She showed scans of a Xyrelian body recovered from a crashed ship. The alien looked almost reptilian, but with a blue-green skin and 6 limbs. Their cellular structure breaks down when exposed to specific radiation bands. We've developed a new weapon that produces exactly these bands. General Patricia Alvarez leaned forward. Is it deployable? We've already installed prototypes on 3 ships, Russell replied. Early tests show 90% effectiveness. What about their ships? Asked Defense Secretary Alan Wright. They're still faster than ours. Russell smiled for the first time. Not for much longer. Our new shield technology can now absorb their energy weapons and convert the energy to power our own systems. The more they shoot at us, the stronger our ships become. The room buzzed with excitement. After 5 years of brutal war across 12 star systems, humanity was finally gaining the upper hand. In a training facility on Mars, soldiers learned to use new powered armor suits. The exoskeletons made them stronger, faster, and more resilient than any human in history. Remember, shouted Drill Sergeant Pamela Ortiz, these suits can keep you alive in vacuum for 6 hours. They can withstand direct hits from Xyrelian, small arms. But they are not invincible, and neither are you. A young soldier raised his hand. Sergeant, is it true the Xyrelians never expected us to fight back? That they've conquered other species easily? Ortiz nodded. Intelligence suggests they're used to quick surrenders. Most species they've encountered before were peaceful. They never met humans before. She grinned fiercely. Their mistake. Fleet Admiral Vincent Reyes stood before a holographic display of the Xyrelian home system. Around the table stood his top commanders, their faces showing the wear of 5 years of constant war. This, Reyes said, pointing to the 3rd planet, is their homeworld. Our intelligence suggests their emperor is there. This will be our final push. Their defenses? Asked Rear Admiral Jane Cortez. Heavy, but nothing we haven't overcome before. Reyes expanded the hologram to show the planned approach. We've learned from every battle. Every defeat taught us painful lessons that we quickly put into action. The Xyrelians, on the other hand, have grown overconfident from centuries of easy conquests. He looked around at his commanders. Throughout our history, humans have always been at our most innovative when fighting for survival. We've turned our greatest weakness, our aggression, into our greatest strength. The fleet is ready, sir, said Captain Steve Ramirez. The soldiers are eager to end this. Reyes nodded. Then we begin at 600 tomorrow. Dismissed. As his commanders filed out, Reyes studied the hologram of the Xyrelian homeworld. Intelligence reports indicated growing panic among the alien leadership. What had begun as their casual elimination of another, lesser species had become their nightmare. On the Xyrelian homeworld, Emperor Krelvax stared at the reports with all 4 of his eyes widened in fear. The humans had destroyed his 3rd fleet. They were advancing across all fronts, adapting to every tactic, overcoming every advantage his species had held. They cannot be stopped, his war minister said, his scales pale with stress. Every time we defeat them, they come back stronger. They learn from failure in ways our people never have. Emperor Krelvax made a decision. Send emergency transmissions to the Galactic Council. Tell them everything. What should the message say, Emperor? Tell them to contain the humans before they become unstoppable. Tell them we awakened something terrible, a species that turns defeat into strength and peace into war. Tell them to hurry. They must not let the humans reach the wider galaxy. As the transmission was sent toward the heart of the galaxy where 17 advanced species maintained the galactic order, the first human scout ships were already entering the outer reaches of the Xyrelian home system. The Galactic Council chamber was ancient. Carved from a single asteroid billions of years ago, it floated at the exact center point between the territories of the 17 most advanced species in the known galaxy. The chamber itself was a massive dome with 17 sections, one for each member race. For the first time in over 300 years, an 18th section had been hastily prepared. High Counselor Nexthar of the Valarians shifted uncomfortably on his floating platform. His transparent body pulsed with blue light, a sign of anxiety among his kind. Around the circular chamber, representatives of the other species showed similar signs of unease. "They're here," announced the Council Herald, a small green being with 4 arms. The massive doors at the far end of the chamber slid open. Ambassador Samuel Wright entered, his confident stride echoing in the sudden silence. He wore a simple black diplomatic uniform with Earth's new military insignia, a planet with a sword through it. Behind him walked 2 Marines in battle-scarred, power armor, their faces hidden behind reflective visors. They carried no visible weapons, but their armor itself was clearly designed for combat. "The human delegation appears armed in these sacred chambers," Nexthar said, his voice translator giving his words a metallic quality. "This confirms what the Xyrelians have told us about your violent nature." Wright stopped at the center of the chamber and looked up at the ring of alien faces. Some had tentacles. Others had multiple eyes or no eyes at all. One appeared to be made entirely of crystal. Yet all shared the same expression, fear mixed with curiosity. "We came armed," Wright replied calmly, "because the last time we approached an alien civilization peacefully, they slaughtered our people without warning. We won't make that mistake again." A tall, insect-like being leaned forward on her platform. "I am Counselor Shivex of the Trill Collective. We have observed your war with the Xyrelians. Most unfortunate." Wright's face hardened. "Unfortunate? 2,137 civilians died in the first attack alone. Millions have died since, and you watched and did nothing." "The Council does not interfere in local conflicts," explained a being made of swirling gases contained in a transparent suit. "It is our oldest law." "Even when one side attacks without provocation?" Wright asked. Nexthar raised a tentacle. "The Xyrelians are the designated peacekeepers of that sector of space. They have maintained order for over 8,000 years. Wright laughed bitterly. "Peacekeepers? They attacked our colony ships without a single attempt at communication." "We have only your word for this," said a crystalline being, its voice ringing like bells. Wright turned to the human woman who had entered silently behind him. "Chief Science Officer Maya Patel, show them." Patel stepped forward and activated a device on her wrist. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed the footage from the Retribution, the colony ships being destroyed, people being sucked out into space, the desperate escape. "This is what your peacekeepers did," Wright said as the footage ended. "Before judging us, examine the facts. We sought peaceful contact. They responded with violence. We defended ourselves. If protecting our species makes us violent in your eyes, so be it." A long silence followed. Finally, a being that looked like a ball of purple light spoke. "I am Counselor Zot of the Luminar. We recognize your right to self-defense. However, the speed with which your species developed military technology is concerning. The Xyrelians report that you have developed weapons specifically designed to target their biological weaknesses," added Nexthar. "This suggests a level of aggression beyond mere defense." Wright nodded. "We studied our enemy and adapted. Would you have preferred that we die nobly, maintaining some abstract principle of fairness while our colonies burned?" The council members exchanged glances. Many of them had existed in peace for so long that the concept of all-out war was almost forgotten. "You fear us because we fought back," Wright continued, addressing the entire council. "Consider this. Had the Xyrelians welcomed us peacefully, we would have joined the galactic community as peaceful explorers and traders. They shaped us into warriors, and now you must deal with what they created." "What do you want from this council?" asked Shivex. "Recognition of our right to exist, acknowledgement that the Xyrelians were the aggressors, and assurance that no other council race will attack humanity." Nexthar's body pulsed with blue light again. "And if we refuse?" One of the human Marines took a step forward, the servos in his armor whirring softly. Ambassador Wright placed a hand on the Marine's shoulder. "Then we will continue to defend ourselves as we have done. But know this, we did not start this war. If the Council chooses to stand with the Xyrelians, you will force us to consider all alien life hostile. Are you threatening the Council? Demanded a serpentine being with glowing red eyes. I'm explaining reality, Wright replied. Humans spent thousands of years fighting each other before we united. We know war better than we know peace. We would prefer to be your allies and friends, but we will not hesitate to be your enemies if that is what you choose. The chamber erupted into multiple alien languages as the council members argued among themselves. Some gestured angrily at the humans. Others seemed to be pleading for calm. Wright stood motionless in the center, his face showing no emotion. The two Marines remained at his side, their armor reflecting the colorful lights of the various alien beings. Suddenly, an alarm sounded, a piercing wail that cut through the arguments. Council members turned to their personal communication devices. What is happening? Demanded Nexthar. A small alien rushed into the chamber. High Counselor, we are under attack. Multiple Council worlds report massive assaults by unknown vessels. The Cyrelians? Asked Shivex. No, the messenger replied, its voice trembling. The attackers call themselves the Kravex. They have come from beyond the rim of the galaxy. 3 Council worlds are already under siege. Our defense fleet has engaged but reports heavy losses. The Council chamber descended into chaos. Wright watched as the mighty Galactic Council, which had looked down on humanity with such judgment just moments before, now faced an existential threat of their own. Exthar turned to the human ambassador, his body now pulsing red with fear. Perhaps this discussion should be continued after this current crisis is resolved. Ambassador Wright nodded, slowly, a grim smile forming on his lips. Perhaps by then you'll have a better understanding of why humans fight the way we do. The emergency command center of the Galactic Council was nothing like the grand chamber where they normally met. It was a small practical room with screens covering every wall. Each screen showed a different Council world under attack. High Counselor, Nexthar's transparent body flashed with red pulses of fear as he watched the Kravex ships tear through the Council's defense fleet. The unknown attackers used strange weapons that seemed to fold space itself, allowing them to appear inside. Defensive shields. How many ships have we lost? Asked Counselor Shivex, her insect-like mandibles clicking with worry. Over 60% of our main fleet, replied the defense minister, a small reptilian being. The Kravex weapons and tactics are unlike anything we have encountered before. They seem to have been watching us for a long time, learning our weaknesses. The evacuation of Trill Prime has failed, reported another official. 10 million civilians trapped. Shivex made a keening sound of distress. Trill Prime was her homeworld. Exthar turned to look at Ambassador Wright, who stood quietly in the corner of the room with his 2 Marines. The human had been invited to observe but had said nothing for hours. You find our situation amusing, human? Nexthar asked bitterly. Wright shook his head. Not at all. I recognized the look of a species facing extinction. We had that same look 5 years ago. The Kravex came from the void between galaxies, said the defense minister. Our long-range sensors detected them months ago, but we thought they were just a nomadic trading fleet. They were waiting, Wright said, watching, looking for the right moment to strike. The room fell silent as everyone looked at the human. Just as you watched us fight the Xerelians, Wright added. Exthar's color shifted to a deep blue of shame. We have maintained peace for so long. Perhaps we have forgotten what it means to fight. Wright walked to the center of the room. Your defense fleet is using outdated tactics. They're fighting in traditional formations. The Kravex are using hit-and-run attacks, targeting your command ships first. Shivex approached Wright. Your species defeated the Xyrelians when no one thought it possible. Will you help us? Wright looked at her with surprise. You were ready to condemn us as violent savages just hours ago. And now we need those savages, she replied simply. Will you help? Wright touched his communication device. Admiral Foster, are you receiving this? A woman's voice came through clearly. I am, Ambassador. The human fleet is still positioned at the edge of Council space. We're monitoring the situation. Wright looked at the desperate faces of the council members. These people need our help. There was a pause. Then Admiral Diana Foster's voice came again, firm and clear. We'll help. Not because they asked, but because we understand what it means to face extinction. No sentient species deserves that fate. Tell them we're on our way. Admiral Foster stood on the bridge of the EDF flagship, Humanity's Shield, her gray hair pulled back in a tight bun. The massive view screen showed the Kravex fleet surrounding a beautiful blue planet, one of the Council's oldest colony worlds. They outnumber us 3-1, said Captain Greg Turner, studying the tactical display. Foster nodded. Just like the Zarelians did at the Battle of Proxima, we survived that. The Council ships are retreating, reported Communications Officer Lisa Wilson. They're clearing the space for us to engage. Smart move, Foster said. They just get in our way. She straightened her uniform and addressed the bridge crew. This isn't our fight. These aren't our people. But today, we fight for all sentient life. The Kravex would destroy us too, given the chance. She touched a button on her chair. All ships, this is Admiral Foster. Engage according to Battle Plan Echo. Hit them hard and hit them fast. Show them what humanity can do. The human battle fleet, ships still bearing the scars of the Zarelian War, moved to engage the Kravex. Council representatives watched from their retreating vessels, expecting to see the humans use the same tactics they had. Instead, they witnessed something entirely new. Human ships executed combat maneuvers that the Council tacticians had considered impossible. They fired their engines in short, precise bursts, changing direction faster than any Council ship could manage. They didn't maintain formation but moved as individual units, supporting each other without being predictable. Their neural network operates on predictable patterns, said Dr. Kevin Blackwell, who had joined Council scientists on their central command station. He pointed to the scan readings of the Kravex communication systems. See how they coordinate? They're using a hive mind approach. Is that a weakness? Asked a Volarian scientist. Blackwell nodded, his eyes still on the display. We can use that against them. Their ships have to stay within certain distances to maintain their network. If we can disrupt it, we can confuse them. Finished the Volarian, its body glowing with excitement. On the battlefield, human Marines in advanced power armor boarded Kravex ships. Council observers watched in awe as the humans fought with a ferocity that shocked even veteran warriors. They didn't retreat when injured. They didn't stop when faced with superior numbers. They kept fighting, adapting to Kravex weapons and tactics in real time. They're protecting the evacuation ships, said a Council commander in disbelief. They're putting themselves between the Kravex and our civilian transports. A human ship, its hull burning from multiple hits, deliberately rammed a Kravex dreadnought that was targeting a transport filled with Council civilians. Both ships exploded in a ball of fire. Why would they sacrifice themselves for us? Asked a young Council officer. We are not their people. Because that's what humans do, replied Ambassador Wright, who had joined the Council Command Center. We fight hardest when protecting others. Within days, the tide began to turn. Dr. Blackwell, working alongside alien scientists, developed a weapon that disrupted the Kravex neural network. Human ships deployed the weapon, while Council ships evacuated civilians from threatened worlds. The Kravex, expecting easy victory against the peaceful Council races, found themselves facing an enemy forged in the crucible of constant conflict, humanity. They're retreating, announced a Council commander as the Kravex ships began to pull back from the third planet they had attacked. High Counselor Nexthar watched the battle displays with a new understanding. His body now glowed with a purple color never before seen. In his species, respect mingled with gratitude. We misjudged them, he said quietly. They are violent, yes, but their violence shields others. They fight so that peace may exist. 1 year after the Kravex invasion, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. Parts of it still showed damage from battle, with temporary walls where ancient stone had once stood, but the biggest change was the 18th section, now permanently installed for humanity. President Laura Bennett, a tall woman with dark skin and silver hair, stood there. She was Earth's first representative to hold permanent council status. The simple black uniform she wore had become the standard for human diplomats, with Earth's new symbol, a planet with an olive branch and sword, on the shoulder. "Friends," Bennett began, looking around at the alien faces. "1 year ago, our peoples met in fear and suspicion. Today, we meet as allies." The chamber, once filled with whispers about the dangerous humans, now filled with sounds of agreement. Naxthar, still the High Counselor, glowed a warm yellow color of friendship. "We came to the stars seeking friendship and knowledge," Bennett continued. "Instead, we found war. But through that fire, we found our place in the universe." She gestured to the repaired sections of the chamber. "Together, we pushed back the Kravex. Together, we showed that different species can work as one when necessary." Many council members nodded or made their species equivalent gestures. The Kravex had retreated to the edges of the galaxy, their forces broken by the combined might of humanity and the council races. "Humans aren't inherently more violent than any other species," Bennett said, her voice strong but gentle. "We simply never had the luxury of forgetting what it means to fight for survival. And when threatened, we respond with everything we have." Shivex, now missing 2 of her 6 limbs from a battle injury, spoke up. "We once feared your warriors. Now we thank the stars for them." On a nearby space station, human officers trained council forces. Admiral Foster walked alongside alien commanders, showing them battle simulations based on human military history. "Your people lived in peace so long you forgot the art of war," she explained. "We never had that luxury. Now we share what we know, not to make you into warriors, but to ensure you can defend your peace." Meanwhile, alien technologies enhanced Earth's capabilities. Solar systems that had been unreachable before were now within range of new ships built with council help. Captain Ryan Martinez stood on the bridge of a new vessel, the Unity. It was the first joint species ship, crewed by humans alongside representatives from 12 council races. Its hull gleamed silver in the light of an alien sun. "Status report," Martinez said. A Valerian officer, its transparent body glowing blue, responded. "All systems optimal, Captain. The new drive is performing at 112% of expected capacity." Martinez smiled. "Set course for the Andromeda probe site. Let's see what's out there." Back in the council chamber, High Counselor Naxthar approached President Bennett after the formal meeting ended. In his tentacles, he held an ancient tablet. "This is the Treaty of Common Defense," he said. "It has not been updated in 12,000 years. Today we add humanity's name to it." Bennett took the tablet carefully. "The blood on humanity's ships that once made us tremble," Naxthar continued, "now reminds us of an essential truth. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the strength to face it when it comes." Bennett signed the treaty. As she did, she remembered all those who had died on colony ships destroyed without warning, in battles across a dozen star systems, in the defense of worlds not their own. "We will honor this treaty," she promised. Bennett looked out at the stars from the council station's observation deck later that day. She thought about humanity's journey. They had traveled to the stars seeking friends and found enemies instead. They had fought a war they never wanted and saved a council that had feared them. Now humanity expanded its presence in council space, bringing their contradictions with them. Fierce warriors who created beautiful art, aggressive defenders who sought peaceful coexistence, and a species whose greatest strength was its ability to learn from its mistakes. The universe had trembled at humanity's arrival. Now, it watched with interest to see what they would become.